Hello and welcome back. I had a little message asking me why there hadn't been a video for a while. And I suppose the answer really was because there wasn't a huge amount of stuff that I could actually talk about because the meetings appeared to be quite well behaved, which is nice. But lots of the meetings are now getting a bit less substantial. It's the secrecy thing again. The meetings that I'm particularly interested in are always the Marina Theatre one and the Town Hall one. And now they're getting sort of near to completion and the Marina's virtually done. Most of the nitty-gritty in those meetings goes into confidential. I've always had a beef with this confidential thing because while there are obviously things that the public are not supposed to know about, I mean, the favourite one is contractual issues. If you're going to have a new building built, I mean, let's for argument's sake say it's something on a park. Well, if you've got 50 grand in the kitty, you don't want all the builders to know that you've got 50 grand to spend because they're all going to quote 49,500, aren't they? When in actual fact they might have been happy to do it for 20 grand. That's the sort of rationale behind the contractual reasons. Another one could be if you're thinking about turfing out a lessee, let's say there's a piece of council property and it's currently rented out to somebody and you want to turn it into a car park or something like that, then you don't really want the actual person who's renting the property to know that you're considering doing something with it, That's another perfectly acceptable, although slightly awkward, rationale for having things in confidence. But we get quite a lot of comments now. I've got to be careful what I say. We'll talk about it in confidential. We have no idea what they're talking about. And the rules on what are supposed to go into confidential are quite precise. But what we're doing is we're just bending a lot of stuff. And I suspect bad news in particular is now routinely shifted into confidential so that the public, i.e. you and me, don't know what's going on. I have no evidence for saying that at all, apart from the usual disagreements over sort of policy decisions that some councillors won't agree with don't seem to happen in public anymore. They no doubt still disagree or agree, but that particular part of a meeting is now held later on. So we're clearly not getting the full story. I don't suppose there's anything we can do about it. It's just how they are. They're not particularly happy that people like me talk about some of the trickier things in public. So all I've done really is shifted those things into a part of the meeting that the members of the public are not allowed to see. I guess some of the blame for that lies firmly on me. I'm talking about things that they would rather hope people don't talk about, which is a bit of a shame. There are a few things that have happened that you glean about from comments that you do hear in meetings. There's one coming a bit later where Andy Pearce sort of talks about something that's happened that I wasn't aware of at all. And he just mentions it in passing. So it clearly got talked about in a meeting that we didn't have access to. There's one particular subcommittee meeting that's on the website and it says they haven't met. Well, they have. And I know they've met. But it says on the website there have been no meetings. It's things like that that don't sound particularly open and transparent. And that's the council's phrase, not mine. So what have I got for you today? In one of the other meetings, it was mentioned that a member of council staff had actually been assaulted whilst, I'm assuming, walking either as part of their job or on their way to work or something like that. But, whoever that person was, I wish them well. It's pretty appalling that a member of the council has been assaulted in some way. I think from the general way the meeting were talking, it was somewhere in one of the public areas of Lowestoft. It wasn't anywhere sort of private. It was actually in a public area. Hopefully some news about that will come out at some point. But that's clearly unacceptable in any shape or form, isn't it? But anyway, on to today's thing. Something very strange happened. I mean, not problematic strange, but just a bit unusual.
And the grounds of Hamilton House. Thank you. That's that. So, just to say who's here today, and can I make a... Oh, John.
If I may, Chair, following your introduction, and with all due politeness, I understand that you prefer to sit where you're sitting.
Yes.
I find as a member of a committee, I would prefer the chair to be consistently where the chairs sit. I find it hard to see where you are. Well, not.
Can you hear me, John?
I can hear you, but I can't always see you easily if you're there, and I'm expressing a preference.
I prefer to sit here, so that's my decision.
Well, actually, I agree with John, because you couldn't see John. I had to tap you to tell you that John had his hand up.
No, but
I don't think you have such an every other chair now is sitting at the front, and it seems to work better. You've got a whole overview of the room then.
If you'd like me to go,
No,
and
go.
I'll go.
Nobody wants you to go.
Well, that's what I'm feeling.
Why?
Because I decide I want to sit here. I like it here. I don't see what the problem is.
Vision.
That was
when the meeting starts, John. With respect, I think I'm quite able to tell when people got their hands up, and I think I'm able to do that quite well. And I don't think I miss people putting their hands up.
If I may have a second bite at the cherry on one subject, which is contrary to your statement, I think, but it's not, again, with respect, it's not necessarily what you like, but is it not what the council members and the council rules stipulate? Council rules stipulate and what works for council members. But I am not in any way trying to get rid of you. I'm expressing a preference.
Well, I would understand that if it was something that I've always sat here ever since I've been chairing the meeting now, which is best part of 3 years, and I've never sat anywhere else, and nobody's ever mentioned that to me before until today. That seems quite strange to me. Anyway. I'm very sorry that we have to start the meeting with such a bizarre item. Anyway, we'll go on. I would like to I'd like to cordially say hello and welcome to our committee, to our 2 new members of the committee who are joining us for the first time, our non-councillor members. And that's to John Ellaby and to Penny Dack, and welcome to our committee. We are charged with the responsibility of doing the best we can for the town and its environment and the ecological situation that it's in, and we try and do the best we can. And I'm sure that you will have lots to add to that as we go forward. So thank you for putting your names down and joining up. So with me today are myself, Paul Page. We have Wendy Brooks, Debbie Ray, John Murray, Neil Colby, John Ellaby and Penny Dack. And from the officers' side, we have Taylor Williams, who's our committee clerk and project planning assistant. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you. Look, I'm really sorry about this. This made me feel really uncomfortable. If you want me to move, I will move. But I really think that should have been something, John, with respect, that we could have talked about before the meeting started proper. you had your hand up, Wendy.
Yeah, I just want a point of information I'd like from, if Taylor has it. There was a third person who requested to be on the Climate Emergency Committee, but she would only be able to attend probably remotely a lot of the time. And I wonder if you'd have a response from her about if she would like to join or not.
Well, that was a bit cringeworthy, really, wasn't it? Especially as two of the players there are always ultra polite, never cause waves, and are not the sort of people who usually sort of are awkward. But that was cringy, especially cringy as it was the first meeting with two new members present. So that was a really good start, wasn't it? I did notice some of the other councillors had got one of those frozen in rock expressions, as in, I'm not going to look left, I'm not going to look right, I'm going to look straight ahead, and hopefully this will all blow over. But he's always sat there. Quite a few councillors stay in their normal positions. Most now, I've noticed, do go to the front. But not all of them. So I thought, that's a bit of a strange thing. Anyway, that actually wasn't the end of it. The next day, there was another meeting.
Item 48 to receive.
Just make a very quick
Councillor
comment.
Brooks, yeah.
This is to stop any further aggravation. All right, Sonia, it's absolutely. Yesterday there was a bit of a hoo-ha in
Right,
climate emergency about where the chair should sit,
right,
and eventually the chair did agree to sit at the front because
Right.
Councillor Murray pointed out that this is how chairs are supposed to be behaving.
right.
So in order that we don't continue to have this disagreement, would you mind sitting at the front? Just to cut, it's
Right, I could do, yeah. I suppose it's just
just
that,
to keep, just so that the person who was the chair, who was asked to sit at the front, who made a bit of a fuss about it, but eventually did.
oh, right,
That's all I'm saying. It's not because I just to keep it some sort of like, to see we're all playing by the same rules.
right,
Ba-
okay,
Is that,
right. Councillor Pearce,
Yeah, that is fair comment.
Yeah, okay.
The point was made to Paul. I think it was just suggested earlier in the year by staff when we were getting queries in about better management of meetings. It was suggesting that the chair should sit at the front, be identifiable, and also do they get picked up easier by the owl or
They
by
might
the
do.
Zoom? But also you've got the double control thing up there.
Control. I suppose what it is it's just sort of, I've sat here for this meeting because it's subcommittee meeting. But is that okay if I move? I don't want.
Committee.
I'll,
no, see, now that is where we have problems, because if now you're saying it's up to the chair of the committee,
Well,
that certainly wasn't
well,
said to Paul
well,
yesterday.
no, rather than disrupt all this, if we do it from the next one,
meeting, yeah.
I think I'd rather do that.
Fine. I don't
Okay.
care.
I
To
don't think
me-
even Paul was told it was compulsory. I think it was
No.
just decided it might be a good idea for the management of meetings
It's fine.
that we needed to be consistent. But
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, it took a while, but I think some clarity just popped in. Andy mentioned about some changes that were made to the management of meetings. Somebody complained about the conduct and the way the meetings were managed. And my guess is that's where all of this sort of changed to the top of the meeting, with the bit about putting your phones away and being nice to each other. And clearly from here, having the chair at the top of the table, which, I mean, being perfectly honest, is always the best place, because in that first clip, I don't know if you noticed, but it was quite clear the chair had not seen somebody sort of trying to get in because there were councillors in the way, and someone had to sort of tap on the chair's shoulder and say, excuse me, the owl system they use to record these meetings makes that room look very different from what it is in real life. I mean, you've got to remember that what in actual fact there are two tables that go that way, and at the top where the screen is on the wall is actually at 90 degrees. On the owl thing, it spreads that all out, so it looks like all the councillors can actually see each other. But when someone is sitting to your left or your right, you actually can't see them because there are people in the way. But clearly, there have been discussions about the management of meetings. Good thing, really, wasn't it? Because I have to say, if they've had this meeting about the management of the meetings and being nice to each other, it seems to have worked. It's just a bit funny how it came up there. And then, of course, we got a bit of disagreement with one of the officers saying it's up to the chair of the meeting, which wasn't the way it was presented in that first one, was it? So in the first one, they fended for themselves. In the second one, Sonia was able to stay where she was because she's the chair and she can do what she wants. It's quite good. Looking at all these little tiny snippets of info, I'm also guessing that's where that new phrase came in, that the chair is allowed to suspend the live stream. So obviously watching the council behave badly is perceived as not a good move. Anyway, there's not really much else to talk about, so I just thought I'd air a few things and explain why I've been missing. I am going away very shortly, so I will try and do the meetings remotely. I shall be in Belfast for a while, but I can still watch the meetings even though I'll be hundreds of miles away, and I'll do my very best to do that. So you'll probably get some comment from me remotely. Anyway, look after yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.